When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
About the past and about the future.
Welcome back to Draftvice. I'm back. It is Walter, and today we are doing our last Midnight Monday mock draft. Yeah, it's right, everybody. The Midnight Monday mock draft is back. We're going to be talking all about the draft, man. It is here. It's almost here, and let's get right onto it, right? We are talking today. First off, we have to touch right off the top with the Orlando Brown trade, right? He gets traded from the Baltimore Ravens over to the Kansas City Chiefs. And the big part of it dealing with today's draft is because the Ravens now have an extra first-round pick, and the Chiefs do not. They swapped picks. The Chiefs now have the Ravens' second-round pick, and the Ravens now have the Chiefs' first-round pick, as well as a couple of third-rounders and a fifth-rounder next year. Just a bunch of random picks. So, again, I'll give a little quick of an idea of what I think about this trade. But for the Chiefs, I think it wasn't the worst idea in the world. They clearly did not think that a rookie coming in to play left tackle this year would be the best thing for them. So what did they do? They trade for Orlando Brown, a guy who actually has been primarily in a run primary schemes. 43% of his he's only had I think 43% of his pass sets be true pass sets. That's really low for an NFL tackle, the guy who's going to be your left tackle. So I get the worries like some people might have with this. I think some people are saying, "Oh, the Chiefs, they got robbed by the Baltimore Ravens." I don't think it's that clear cut because, if you're thinking about it, you're the Chiefs. First off, at least Orlando Brown comes on a 1-year deal. They essentially trade the equivalent of a second-round pick when all is said and done after you look at what they traded to the Ravens and what they got back and the fact that they still have 2 second-round picks. It's not like they totally lost value. And so if you're looking for a guy to start next year, like even if they don't extend Orlando Brown, I think the fact that there's a first-round pick in the trade made it look way more intimidating to some people. And I think it opened up your run game a little bit more. You're now going to have Orlando Brown on the left side next to Joe Dooney. You now have 2 big hog males that can just pound the way, clear for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think this really does a lot for the Chiefs. Now, it's not necessarily what I would have done, and they do have to extend Orlando Brown if they want to keep him after next year. That doesn't mean they are. I think this is actually kind of a low. Like again, keep in mind this is essentially a second-round pick they traded, right? It was a swap. That would probably be essentially the same as if they traded a second-round pick next year to move up from the second round up to the back end of the first round. So it's not really that much that they traded to go ahead and get Orlando Brown. As far as the Ravens go, I actually think this was, while a good thing for the Ravens, they do like acquiring picks. Now they have a boatload more. They have 2 first-rounders. They're going to have a giant gap, though, between the first round and the third round. Because I think they got one of the Chiefs' third-rounders at least. So they at least got a third-rounder out of it. But if they didn't even get the third-rounder out of it, they don't have their own third-rounder this year. So, now, granted, I expect the Ravens to trade down from one of those first-round picks to accumulate more picks in this draft so they can go ahead and bring guys in on the roster. See, people, just because your team has a lot of picks and just because it's already a talented team does not mean they can't draft more guys in the mid-rounds. You just you're taking better shots. You're not just taking 6th-round picks, 7th-round picks, firing darts at players. So I don't mind this move for the Ravens either. Orlando Brown was holding out. He said he wanted to be a left tackle. His daddy raised him to be a left tackle, and that's what he was going to be. And I don't disagree. Listen, you want to be a left tackle as your dream? He played really well at left tackle. He played not like top, half of the NFL, but you got to realize he was at least a starting level left tackle. He was probably in like the 20 ranges of tackles. And keep in mind, that's still pretty good for a guy who had to switch to left tackle this year, where he was previously playing right tackle. Remmers comes back. The Chiefs get Kyle Long. So I think altogether, the Chiefs kind of made a smart move here. They, and the Ravens made a smart move. I think it's one of those times where the trade just works for both sides. The Ravens do have to address offensive line. I actually already had interior offensive line as a need. Now they have tackle as a need as well. And there's going to be players in this draft that they might want to go ahead and draft to be their right tackle of the future. If Tevin Jenkins falls, I'm sure the Baltimore Ravens will jump on getting him. If Darisaw or Samuel Cosme is there, maybe they feel like their scheme, it's not tackle neutral. They do need an offensive lineman. They are talking to Dennis Kelly and Alejandro Villanueva. Both, Alejandro Villanueva was formerly the left tackle of the Steelers. I guess he'd be right tackle now, or maybe he would be playing left tackle if Ronnie Staley couldn't come back. They also had talked to Dennis Kelly. He's played swing tackle for the Titans in the past, so maybe they bring him in as well to be their right tackle, and at least they have some stability. And then if Staley does come back, they switch Alejandro Villanueva to the right side. So that was just kind of my really riku, like a haiku, but a recouping of what's gone on, because it's going to be a different kind of draft than previously. We now have the Ravens with 2 first-round picks. There's been talk about them possibly trading up with those picks. I think that's not going to happen. That's not a Ravens thing that they typically do unless they're trying to go for very certain kinds of players. Don't think that's going to be a thing in this draft. So let's start it off, right? And the mock is back to the left. And yes, here we are, the mock to the left. Everything you know in the mock to the left, in the closet. All right, no more singing. All right, so here we are, first overall, Trevor Lawrence. Bam. Going to be trying to quick with this. Zach Wilson. I don't think we've been lied to so far. I don't even know if the Jets saw any other quarterbacks. I think they just saw Zach Wilson. They went, well, Zach Wilson, he looks like a TikTok star. He looks like he's been Instagram famous forever. Let's go ahead and draft that kid from BYU, the Mormon school. We'll go ahead and have him play quarterback. So, yes, we'll have Zach Wilson going to the Jets. And number 3 overall. Last week, I had Trey Lance go to the San Francisco 49ers. Apparently, this was actually a smart move. It just keeps on sounding like it's been a long trek towards either Trey Lance or Mac Jones. I said before, I think I said it last week, John Beck is now the QB coach for Trey Lance. He did not start out the offseason as the QB coach for Trey Lance, though. And I think that's the thing we have to key in on. He did not start out the offseason. It was Quincy Avery who was his QB coach. So, since then, the odds have gone down. I think it was previously plus 300 Trey Lance or plus 400 Trey Lance going to 49ers. Well, now Trey Lance is plus 175. Now, granted, Mac Jones is minus 200, but it does sound like Trey Lance is somewhere in the realm of potential suitors to go to the 49ers. It does sound like people think that Justin Fields is completely off the board. I think that might be a little bit of a stretch. In fact, I just throw a dollar bill on that just to see if that bet comes through, because you can make a little bit of money if that works. I actually put $5 on Trey Lance the other day. I live in Jersey, so we could do sports betting. So 3 overall, I have Trey Lance going to the 49ers. 4 overall. I have so there's been a lot of talk Falcons might trade Julio Jones, but that's going to be a post-draft trade. Right now, I think they are looking at maybe, if they are getting rid of Julio Jones, I think they look at weapons still to surround Matt Ryan with, right? I think they would only do that trade if they thought, well, we can survive it. And if they think they can survive it, I think it means they got another weapon in this class. And yes, that means I think they take Kyle Pitts at 4. 5 overall. Been a lot of talk potentially the Bengals taking Jamar Chase versus Penny Sewell. Reunite our boy Joe Burrow with his best friend from college, the wide receiver Jamar Chase, or do we reinforce the offensive line? I gotta tell you, I think the fact that I heard a little bit of an argument the other day that kind of made sense as far as predicting this goes, and I said this on somebody else's show when they had me come on and do a dueling mock draft with them. I think that the fact that we did not see the Bengals go after wide receiver in free agency very hard, the fact that they did address offensive line a little bit this offseason, and the fact that really their current needs are interior offensive line, I would argue you don't let the fact that you signed Riley Reif prevent you from drafting Penny Sewell, but at the same time, they knew they were already in the range to either take Penny Sewell or Jamar Chase. They did not address wide receiver after A.J. Green left, and I think this means that they're taking Jamar Chase. I don't know if that's definitely what it means, but I think it's a good hint of what it could mean. 6 overall. Miami Dolphins. I think this is the worst way it could have went for the Dolphins. I think they wanted Chase or Pitts initially. If neither of those guys are on the board, though, I think it is quite possible they could go Penny Sewell, or they go one of the wide receivers, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, reunite them with Tua Tagovailoa. I think I've done this so many times before in my life. I don't know what the right argument is. I think what they would be having Devontae Smith do, I think Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith would be easily good arguments at 6. I personally think it's going to be Jalen Waddle. Why? They need a speed guy. Yes, they signed Kyle Fuller in the offseason, but, you can never have too much speed on offense. They have Devontae Parker. They have Preston Williams. They have Will Fuller. Now they get Jalen Waddle. That's a lot of electricity on an offense. I could easily see them going Devontae Smith here. I think if the first 2 guys off the board that are not quarterbacks are Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase, I think it's a fight between the Alabama receivers. Yes, could they go offensive linemen? Sure. I would probably go that route myself, but Jalen Waddle's electric, might be in some people's rankings their favorite wide receiver in this class. And Devontae Smith also has a very good argument for being a top wide receiver in this class. We've seen previous years where wide receivers did not go in the top 10. Last year, not a single wide receiver went in the top 10. I've done mock drafts where I didn't have a single wide receiver go in the top 10. This time around, who is coming? Oh, I got somebody saying they can Stan Jones. They can get a good tackle at round 2. Stan, is this about the Bengals? Because I think that's definitely true. I think both Bengals and the Miami Dolphins could look at tackle round 2. There is an argument for that. I think it depends. And again, I think if you're talking about the Bengals, like I said before, I don't think that Riley Reif prevents you from drafting a tackle. Maybe you look at one more of the developmental tackles, or they look at more interior protection, right? Maybe they go after a Ben Cleveland. Maybe they believe Alex Leatherwood will fall to the second round. I don't think so. But again, I think also Miami Dolphins could kind of be thinking the same way. Also, I don't think the Miami Dolphins have put too much pressure on rotating out that offensive line room. I think they're looking playmaker and edge rusher in this draft, or defensive playmaker. I don't know if necessarily edge rusher by pure definition. At 7 overall, the Detroit Lions, right? They're on the board. There's no Justin Fields here, right? We haven't taken him off the board. I think this is where the Patriots trade up. This is going to be one of the closer to what I think is going to happen mock drafts. So we're going to have a trade, right? The Patriots calling up. They're like, "Yo, what's up?" Oh, you guys can't see that. I'm going to switch the big mock to the middle so you can see some of this. They're going to be like, "Yo, what's up?" Patriots are on the phone. They're going to give you a call. Detroit Lions. They're going to be like, "Yo, Lions, I got 15. How about I give you 46 and a bagel, and maybe I'll give you a second round in next year, right? And you give us 7." And it might be too much, actually. It's possible that both sides think that's a little too much. What if we give him 96 and 139? Could do it. Declined. Nope, that didn't work. All right, fine. Patriots, stop being cheap. Up the ante. This is your quarterback here, Patriots. Yeah, Patriots. Stop being cheap, Patriots. Fine, 15, 46, 2. Because I'm sure the Lions are getting phone calls. Accepted. They don't want to move too far back. Now the Patriots on the board. They take Justin Fields. Bam. 8 overall. Penny Sewell's still on the board. Rashawn Slater's still on the board. Guess who's still on the board also? The Panthers. Panthers are sitting there going, you know what? We want to tackle. We could also trade down. We could take Mac Jones. I don't know. McCorkle Jones is going to go somewhere, but I'm not quite sure this is where McCorkle ends up. I know there's a lot of talk that they really like him at the Senior Bowl. The Panthers were the floor for McCorkle. I love saying McCorkle. Let's be real here. Penny Sewell, though, left tackle out of Oregon. I think they need a stalwart left tackle. I think they could also look at trading down. There's been a lot of talk about the Chargers, right? Potentially trying to trade up into the top 10 to get Penny Sewell. I find this interesting because I think if there was a run on tackles earlier, I could see that. It's also quite possible that they could just sit and wait because there's only 2 tackles that have gone off there's only not a single tackle's gone off the board. So I just don't think that the Panthers are going to get an offer to trade down. So they take Penny Sewell. 9 overall. Denver Broncos, right? Let's transition back to this. At number 9 overall, we got Rashawn Slater. I don't think the Broncos go that route, right? They could take Devontae Smith, wide receiver. They went wide receiver last year, 2 rounds in a row. You can't play all those wide receivers at once. Could they take Mac Jones? There's been a little bit of rumblings about that recently, that if Mac Jones falls to them, that this could totally be the spot where he goes. I don't know. I think if they take Mac Jones, it's a weird situation, right? I had this conversation. We did an AFC West preview. It's going to be released tomorrow, just of the draft, with a Denver Broncos fan. He says if you're going ahead and drafting, Trey Lance or Mac Jones, or Fields, like Trey Lance and Drew Lock are kind of like, they were both high upside guys. Now, Trey Lance was definitely better and more athletic. Fields basically pulls the plug automatically. Maybe Mac Jones is the guy that would probably be the perfect fit for the Denver Broncos. I don't know. I just don't. Could they take him? Sure. Do they love him? I have no clue. I honestly think Mac Jones is the perfect fit for a Pat Shurmur offense. So I don't hate the idea of him going here. There's been talk about them going corner. Patrick Surtain, J.C. Horn. They only have Fuller on a 1-year deal. There's been a little bit of talk about Micah Parsons, Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah. I think Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah has been the guy I've mocked here quite a few times. J.C. Horn would be an interesting one. Very Aqib Talib style talent. Good press man coverage. They lined him up everywhere, in the slot, against tight ends, on the back, over on the outside. Again, this is another team that's been talking about trading down. I just don't see somebody to trade down with. Because, again, you look at the board, who are you trading down with? The Washington football team? I don't think they're trading up for Mac Jones, and I don't think the Chicago Bears will either. So I'm going to have it go. I think I'm going to go with. I'm going to go Micah Parsons. I've never done this before, folks. I don't think I've done it before. Micah Parsons, 9 overall, Denver Broncos. I know a Denver Broncos fan is very happy with me right now. I don't buy linebacker at 9, but then again, and I just don't know if they would be totally comfortable with the stuff going on in the hazing stuff that has been alleged, the alleged hazings. 10 overall, Dallas Cowboys. On the board, I think it's pretty simple. J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain. This time around, I have him going Horn. Mr. Horny. They could have him. They could have Dan Quinn doing a little bit of press man coverage, cover 1, cover 3. Have J.C. Horn lining up in man across from somebody and shutting a dude down. Right? I've had it's probably either going to be Horn or Surtain at 10. And I think the Dallas Cowboys fans will go bananas. Like our boy Jay Land has said, he's a big J.C. Horn fan. I think that's definitely a possibility here. So I had the Dallas Cowboys go J.C. Horn. I think Surtain is also very much in the running. I think both are athletic freaks. I think both play the position really well. The things I like about Surtain, he's a technician. The thing I don't like about him is he played up only on one side of the field. That's not really a knock on him. He was still able to lock guys up pretty damn well. He, like I said, good speed and good technician. Sometimes you worry about the guys who might be a little bit more sudden beating him, but I just think I think both Surtain and Horn are great. 11 overall. Giants have been connected to edge rusher and Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle's off the board. I could see them going Rashawn Slater here. I think there's been a little bit less talk recently of them going offensive line. A little bit more talk of them going Kwity Paye. I would go Rashawn Slater. It's quite possible Kwity Paye goes here. Maybe the edge rushers do get pushed up this year. Maybe previously more than we thought. Elijah Vera Tucker, Kwity Paye. There's talk about maybe they would go Micah Parsons here. I think I saw somebody say something about that today. What I would do is I go Rashawn Slater or wide receiver. Oh, Devontae Smith is the divine one. I think this is maybe like one of those things that Gettleman would do, is take that gold jacket wide receiver, where previously he talked about gold jacket running backs getting taken top 2 overall. I'm tied between Slater and Smith. I'm going to go Smith. All right. Okay. We are now at 12 with the Eagles. And let's see. They traded down from 6. They got a first-round pick next year. They're on the clock. They could take Rashawn Slater. They could take anybody on the board, right? They could take Kwity Paye. They could take Christian Barmore. I don't think they're big on the Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoa train. Like I said, edge rush is clearly a possibility on their board. Corner is a possibility on their board. I'm leaning. They have Derek Barnett on the last year of his deal, right? He's on the 5th-year option. They have Brendan Graham. He's a little bit older now. They probably got to start refreshing that room a little bit. So Kwity Paye here might be a good spot. I'm going to hurt myself on this, but yeah, I'm going to go Kwity Paye. I think that's where he can possibly go. 13 overall, we get the Chargers. They see Rashawn Slater, and they go freaky bananas for it. They get the offensive lineman for the future. Had J.C. Horn fallen here. Oh, they would have went Surtain. The Eagles would have went probably Surtain there. They get that good lockdown corner on the outside. I still think Kwity Paye, though, at 12. I think that's just such a Howie move, right? Howie, you just do that to me sometimes, don't you? 14 overall. We're now with the Vikings. I don't know what the Vikings would do here. It's quite possible they would maybe take Jason Owe, Christian Barmore, but they never really had like a true 3-tech. Like they never had like a guy who, like, if you want to use Barmore correctly, you'd line him up at 3-tech. They could take Greg Newsome. They need to replace Jeff Gladney. I just don't think this is the spot to do it. Azeez Ojulari is a little smaller than they typically like. It sucks when you don't have Kwity Paye for the Vikings. A lot of talk's been offensive line. Would they take Darisaw? Would they take Elijah Vera-Tucker? I'm going to go Darisaw here. I typically have had them go Kwity Paye if he's there at 14. He is not. So with the edge rushing class being what it is, the other option I could see there, a guy who maybe they kind of like a little bit more than everybody else, I could see them liking Gregory Rousseau at 14. That would have been a very good pick for them as well. I think they will look. I think they're going to lean edge rusher if they have the right guy on the board who they really like. The Vikings will go edge rusher. Maybe they like Rousseau. Maybe they prefer Kwity Paye. I think teams are going to be a little bit more skeptical about Rousseau, especially given, he didn't really win on the edge. He won a lot more when he was lined up over guard and over centers. 15 overall, we got the Detroit Lions. They could take any kind of guy on the board. I can't believe Patrick Surtain has gotten to this point. This is nuts. I'm pretty sure at this stage, somebody's calling up the Lions to be like, yo, what's going on? This mock draft's gone insane. How did you do this, Walter? How did you let Patrick Surtain fall to this point? This is possibly a point where where the Lions call up the Cardinals and be like, yo, give us a 3rd-round pick, or we're trading them over to the Raiders. Actually, I could see that happening, but not in that form. We get the Raiders calling up the Detroit Lions. And the Lions say, you know what, we'll trade back with you, but what we want is a 3rd-round pick next year. And we'll trade back 2 spots. It's declined? Damn. How did that get declined? That's such a weird thing. 3rd-round pick. 121. And a 6th. All right. There we go. All right, so Raiders trade up with the Detroit Lions. They go get Patrick Surtain because they see a cornerback out of Alabama falling. 16 overall. The Cardinals are on the board. They're annoyed because they didn't get the corner they liked, so they went ahead and they're going to take Greg Newsome. Lions are on the board. Could they trade back again? Sure. Could they accumulate more picks? Sure. But what are they going to really do? I think they could look at, let's see. Well, I think offensive line's actually one of their few good strengths. Like I said, they could have went that route. I think one guy that they might really like, though, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. This is a guy that is very athletic. Basically played slot corner mixed with a linebacker with a side of safety. Kind of the new generation linebacker in the NFL. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah going to the Detroit Lions would give him about a year to kind of acclimate and understand their defense. I think it'd be a perfect fit for them. I've had Barmore going to the Lions like 30 times in these mock drafts because, again, I feel like where they're trading back to 15, 16, 17, usually that's the team I have trading back. Where they are trading back to, they are getting a D-tackle for the future who can develop and become an interior rushing presence. 18 overall, Miami's on the board. There's been a lot of talk about them going edge rusher. There's been recent talk about Azeez Ojulari's knee being a problem. I didn't know that was going to be an issue. If that's the case, he might fall to the second round. If that is the case, I think if you look at the edge rushers in this class, there's Joseph Osai, Jason Owe, Gregory Rousseau, Jalen Phillips. I previously pegged Miami to take Jalen Phillips, but not with pick 18 because he has the concussion issues. And if they are planning to take 18 and going with an edge rusher, I could see them maybe liking a more high upside guy like a Jason Owe, a Joseph Osai. Osai would actually be a very good one for them. He's played off-ball linebacker before, so they can kind of utilize his versatility. Kind of reminds me a bit of a mixture of Bud Dupree mixed with Dante Hightower. Very much a linear athlete, though. That's why he reminds me of Bud Dupree. He doesn't have like the agility of Bud Dupree. So I'm going to have Joseph Osai go 18 overall to the Miami Dolphins. 19 overall, we're now with the Washington football team. There is no Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah here. There is no Micah Parsons here. So what might they do? They could take Mac Jones. I still think maybe they don't even like Mac Jones. If they liked him, they would have traded up for him. Maybe they would take him here. But I think they might be QB neutral for right now. It's sometimes hard to gauge who might want to take this fifth quarterback who falls down the board as we look at like how things have kind of fallen in the draft, right? Especially if Mac Jones doesn't go top 3, where might he fall? Again, I think Washington, could they take Mac Jones? They could. But I also think they are interested in what Taylor Heineke gives them. I also see potential in maybe them taking Samuel Cosmi, Elijah Vera Tucker, guys who could maybe be offensive linemen that they really like. Samuel Cosmi probably has a high upside kind of potential for a offensive lineman. Very Colton Miller-esque, where you're dealing with a guy who's coming in, has a good athletic profile, but also solid play. Elijah Vera Tucker, guard at USC, actually tackle at USC right now, but he played guard in the past, and a lot of people are projecting him to be guard. Both these guys would bolster their offensive line. It's the twist between the better player versus the more positional value. I'm gonna go with Samuel Cosmi. At 20, we have the Chicago Bears. They could take Mac Jones here. I think they do. I think if Mac Jones falls past the 10 marker, I think they're okay. I think they've been okay to trade up to get him. Other options I could see here: offensive linemen. I think they could take Tevin Jenkins, Alex Leatherwood, Liam Eichenberg. Oh, and now we are on to 21. Colts are going to be an interesting one, right? Because they might look at this and they might go, you know what, we need offensive linemen. The problem is Tevin Jenkins, primarily a right tackle. Alex Leatherwood didn't play well last year. Liam Eichenberg's got tiny arms. He's got the T-Rex arms, so maybe teams are going to be a little bit worried about that, although he did play for Notre Dame and played pretty damn well. Dylan Radins, again, tested very well. North Dakota State guy coming out with Trey Lance. I'm thinking, if I'm the Colts, I'm leaning towards Tevin Jenkins. He is a little bit older of a prospect, but I do get the idea of going for a guy who's at least good at what he does. And then you're going to go ahead and stick him at left tackle and see if he develops there. And if he doesn't play well there, you're going to switch him to right guard. So it's totally fine because he did play on the right side. So either way, you're getting a better player at tackle or guard. 22 overall. Tennessee Titans are on the board. Also, I recently saw a comment about maybe not on here, but the Colts maybe are interested in Carlos Basham. So maybe I could also see 21. They're trading back and maybe accumulating a pick or two and getting, Carlos Basham, and then, maybe at the end of round 1 or top at round 2. So that's definitely a possibility. 22 overall. We got the Tennessee Titans, right? Cornerback's a big need. They could take Caleb Farley. Is this where Eric Stokes goes? I've had Eric Stokes gone in a mock draft to him before. Man corner, I think that you're going to be looking at the upside potential. Has that athleticism to really. I really did like Eric Stokes. And I do think a team that needs a corner is going to like him a lot too. He profiles very similar to Adoree Jackson, who they took in the 20s a couple years ago. Yeah, I'll have him take Eric Stokes. I could also see him taking wide receiver here. Rashad Bateman still on the board. Elijah Moore. But Stokes has that athleticism that's crazy. That's just like, it's like a once-in-a-generation kind of deal. He does get beat on some of the quicker routes, but he also has some good zone awareness and good ball skills, too. I mean, he took they were running a pick route on him, and he jumped the route and got a pick 6 on it. So again, like I kind of do like some of what I've seen from Stokes. 23 overall. Jets are on the board. I think they lean edge rusher or D tackle. Well, not D tackle because they got plenty of D tackles. Azeez Ojulari is still on the board. Jason Owe, Gregory Rousseau, Jalen Phillips, Carlos Basham. Any of those guys can go in the first round. They all have weird warts right now, right? Azeez Ojulari has the size question marks, the knee question marks, but he's got good length, good bend, and good hand usage. I really do like Azeez Ojulari. He might have been one of the top 3 guys I had a crush on early in this draft class. Him and J.C. Horn were 2 of my favorite players to watch. Also Barmore. I don't get the Barmore hate. Jason Owe, I've said this before. He often, I think he was coached specifically to play the run first, which is why he had such a good run defense grade for PFF and why a lot of people have appraised his run defending skills. But I think what was happening was he was coached to play the run first. They also lined him up at a position. They lined him up at the 5 tech, right over tackle, where I think really was not always advantageous to go ahead and rush the passer, and he was still a destructive force anyway. Also, you got to remember I think sacks are more of a team stat, where if the team itself is not performing well corner-wise, or you don't have other pass rushers, you can avoid one good pass rusher. So Owe could always be a pick here. And I think that's the pick. You know what? I think Saleh sees an athletic freak who they can turn into a weapon and just boost up that defensive line even more. They signed Carl Lawson in the offseason, but he's got injury concerns. Quinnen Williams is, a really good pass rushing D tackle. I think they, need to build up around him. Vinny Curry is more of a depth guy. So now they get the 4th guy on their edge rotation. I kind of dig this move for them. They could also go offensive line too. And maybe they trade into the first round to get one of the offensive linemen who are still on the board. At 24, Steelers are on the board. I have never done this before ever, because usually I kind of ignore running back in the first round because I just don't buy it, and we saw 1 go in the first round last year. This year I do think 1 goes in the first round, and if it does go in the first round, it's going to be the Steelers. There's been a little bit of talk also about the Bills being into ETN, that they've changed their mind on, maybe potentially taking a running back in the first round. I think that's a little bit more suspect. Saxonville or Jacksonville, whatever you want to call them, is on the board, right? Spent a lot of money at D tackle this offseason. Tyson Alualu, trade for Malcolm Butler, and then Tyson Alualu did not pan out. He did not come to them. In fact, he kind of backed out on that contract. So I think it's quite possible to go Barmore here. They could also go edge rusher, Azeez Ojulari. They could go Carlos Basham, who I think can, I think he's going to have a good career. I don't know if he has the top end range as some of the other players. Gregory Rousseau's still on the board. They're very familiar with him being a Florida guy. Jalen Phillips, I don't know how much Urban Meyer cares about the concussion issues. I know Trent Baalke's been a little not worried about injuries in his past when he was with the 49ers. I'm going to have him go. I don't want to have him go Rousseau, but I've seen Rousseau in a lot of mocks in the first round. I just don't buy it a lot of the time. Safety, they could go Trevon Moehrig. I think Barmore's a possible pick. Offensively, Elijah Vera Tucker's still on the board. Creed Humphrey, Rashad Bateman. You know what? You know what? I'm going to do it. Jamin Davis is a little weird one, too. I think that's probably not the best spot for him. Trevon Moehrig would be a good one. 26 overall, my Browns. They're on the board. They're going to look at everything. They're going to go, you know what, Walter? We want to trade back. We typically would. We don't have an offer to trade back. A lot of the guys we like, Caleb Farley, Azeez Ojulari, Christian Barmore. Oh, Barmore doesn't. All about a lot of things said about them recently in the news. You know, Azeez Ojulari might have a knee issue. Caleb Farley has a couple of back problems. Christian Barmore, you know, he hasn't always taken to coaching. I think it's quite possible that they would go any one of those three players. They would also probably be eager to trade back. I think they'd be interested in Asante Samuel Jr. I don't think they're going to take a linebacker in the first round. There's been a lot of talk about them taking Jamin Davis, Zaven Collins. I could just be a douchebag to all my Browns fans and Browns friends and fans, and just take a linebacker here just to mess with a bunch of them. They could take Rashad Bateman. There's been a lot of talk recently about Rashad Bateman. Will he get it back? Did he lose his groove after COVID? 2020, his tape was not all that great. He was running a lot out of the slot, doing a lot of run after catch work, not really running the best routes. But 2019, like a lot of the other receivers in this class, he had a very good 2019. In fact, his 2019 film is very good. Him and Terrence Marshall had much better 2019s, different reasons, I believe. So that's an option. I think Elijah Moore, wide receiver out of Mississippi, is clearly an option. There's a lot of teams that are fans of Kadarius Toney. They have not really been in contact with Toney as far as I know. They might have been at the Senior Bowl, but definitely as far as what I've been aware of, I have not seen anything connecting them to the Kadarius Toney. I'm still torn. Considering Farley and Azeez are injury concerns, and I'm going to pretend I don't have a trade back here, I'm going to go Christian Barmore. I don't think this is necessarily the pick for them. I do like Barmore a lot. I think interior rush does matter, and to get a guy like Barmore, who, again, is going to be rushing from the 3 technique for you, and you can pair him up with Andrew Billings on early downs, and then you can, swap in Malik Jackson. I think that gives you a nice rotation of D tackles that I think it caused quite the headache. 27 overall, Baltimore Ravens. They just traded away Orlando Brown, famous right tackle. I don't know if he's famous. Infamous? No, that's not right either. So we look at their offensive line. Alex Leatherwood, still on the board. Do you think they take a tackle here after trading away a tackle? I mean, we've seen it happen before. He could play right tackle for them, and I wouldn't be too shocked. Elijah Vera Tucker's still on the board. They lost Marshall Yanda, but they did sign Kevin Zeitler. So maybe they think that bought them a little bit of time on the whole offensive line issue. I think so. I think they go Alex Leatherwood because they think they could play him at tackle, and then if not, they could kick him into guard, especially if Zeitler doesn't work out. 28 overall, we have the Saints. They have a couple of options on the board. I think go wide receiver, and they go Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss, right? Now you might be like, Walter, you had Bateman on the board, and you had Elijah Moore go first. I think it's going to be a flavor of the month club with some of the receivers, and I think some teams might like Elijah Moore because what they saw recently on film. I think there is a bias to what you've seen recently from a player. That doesn't mean Bateman wasn't great in 2019 or that he's not coming back to form, and that might be it just might have taken him a little bit. But what I do think is that at 28, Elijah Moore gives them somebody who's a little different than what they already have on the roster, and again, kind of gives them what they lost when they got rid of Brandon Cooks. And they need a guy who could have that breakaway speed. 29 overall, the Green Bay Packers. This is where Rashad Bateman goes. Bam, right there, goes to the Packers. Packers now get wide receiver of the future, Rashad Bateman. I don't think a lot of them think that he's going to fall this far. Good route runner. Again, very similar to Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams in that regard, in that he's a very good route runner, can line up on the outside, can line up in the slot, and do very well at both spots. 30, you got the Buffalo Bills. I think it's Elijah Vera Tucker's here. They take Elijah Vera Tucker, and it's not even a question. They need interior offensive linemen bad. That's what I think they really need. They don't really necessarily need a running back. Maybe a guy with breakaway speed like Travis Etienne, but I don't think that's where they spend their pick right here, right now. 31 overall, we got the Baltimore Ravens on the board. They're looking around. They're going, you know what? We just spent a pick on Alex Leatherwood. We're going to look around at offense now. I think they can go back to offensive line, take Creed Humphrey. They would probably benefit from that. They had not great center play last year. There's been a lot of talk about them going after wide receiver. They signed Sammy Watkins in free agency. Apparently, they were a little bit in on the Kenny Golladay experience. There's been talks currently about Kadarius Toney. There's been talk about Terrence Marshall potentially falling out of the first round because also, again, knee issues, which is apparently a thing this year in this NFL draft season. Rondale Moore, I don't think goes in the first round because I think teams are afraid of guys who are 5'7". What's going on? Jayland, how you been, man? I missed you. Jayland. So I'm doing a one-round mock draft. This is a final Midnight Monday mock draft. I'm glad you showed up, my friend. I'll run it back through for you. Number 1 overall, we had Trevor Lawrence. Number 2, Zach Wilson. Number 3, Trey Lance. Number 3 overall, similar to last week, but I think that's where this is going now, right? We saw last week it was plus 300. Now it's at plus 175. Trey Lance, all the rumors. Trey Lance might go 3 overall. I think he gives you... it was weird because I was never really the guy who thought they would take Trey Lance going back a month ago, but I think Trey Lance now is probably the pick because I think he gives you the ceiling of a guy of like a Pat Mahomes. Way more likely... Yes, you get Horn. That's all you showed up for. You wanted to know what you got with Dallas. I gave you guys J.C. Horn. 4 was Kyle Pitts. 5 was Jamar Chase. 6, Jalen Waddle. 7, Justin Fields. 8, Penny Sewell. 9, Micah Parsons. 10, J.C. Horn. 11, Devonta Smith. 12, Kwity Paye. 13, Rashawn Slater. 14, Christian Darsaw. 15, Patrick Surtain. Greg Newsome at 16, 17, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, 18, I had the Dolphins go Joseph Osai, 19, Samuel Cosmi, 20, Mac Jones, 21, Tevin Jenkins, 22, Eric Stokes, 23, Jason Owe, 24, Najee Harris. I finally gave in and gave the Steelers a running back in the first round. 25, Trevon Moehrig, 26, Christian Barmore, 27, Alex Leatherwood, 28, Elijah Moore. 29, Rashad Bateman. 30, Elijah Vera Tucker. And at 31, finally, the Ravens' second first-round pick. What could they do here? I've been talking about it for a while. Could they go wide receiver? I'm looking at the wide receivers on the board. Marshall's being talked about as falling out of the first round because of the injury concern with the knee. Kadarius Toney might make it into the first round. He might be the kind of guy that they like. But they're kind of missing, like with the Ravens, they got guys like that. With Lawrence Duvernay that they not Lawrence Duvernay. God dang it, they drafted a speedy dude last year in the 3rd round. And they also have Brown too, who's a deep speed threat as well. So I don't think Kadarius Toney really fits what they need. Would it be an interesting addition for Lamar Jackson? Sure. I already have them take Leatherwood. They could take Creed Humphrey too. Defensively looking, could a second safety sneak into the first round? Richie Grant's a possibility, but I think he's more of a second-round guy who might be sneaking into the top 50. Andre Sisco, I don't think teams are going to be overeager to draft him. Edge rusher's still an option. Azeez Ojulari, Gregory Rousseau, Jalen Phillips. The problem with Ojulari, Jalen Phillips, injury concerns. Apparently now there's being reported knee issue with Ojulari. Levi Wuzariki, Alim McNeil. I think there's been a lot of talk about Levi Wuzariki going in the first round. I see him going in the second. I think he's got a good get off. He's probably, I would say if you're looking for a pure 3 tech, if you have you would need the right scheme to use him, and you would need he's a good gap shooter. He definitely bull rush guys very well. Edge rusher, Gregory Rousseau. I don't think they would do this necessarily, but I think Rousseau, they have Calais Campbell on their roster, right? So they have a guy who's built similarly at this stage. We never saw Rousseau play at 267. We only saw him play at 245 back a year and a half ago. And then he comes back, he puts on 22 pounds worth of weight, tests fine at his pro day, but I think teams are still going to be a little worried that he didn't come in and test like a super freak like what they thought he could have been. For the Baltimore Ravens, this gives them a nice, big, long guy who, again, if he bulks up, he can line up on the interior, or they could play him on the outside as a rusher, like how they were using Judon. I think they might like that body style and his length. At 32 overall, I can't believe we're already done with the first round of this mock draft. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We got Azeez Ojulari still on the board, Jalen Phillips, Carlos Basham, Ronnie Perkins. Think they could definitely go. I've heard Joe Tryon in the first round. I don't know if I believe that too much. They could go offensive lineman. Wyatt Davis here would be an interesting one, but I just think could they go Dylan Radins? I guess. Azeez Ojulari. I don't see them going running back here. I think that would be the mistake. They'd be making the same mistake the Kansas City Chiefs did. Which is going too quick on positions of lower value. So let's see. Jamin Davis, Zaven Collins. They could use Zaven Collins in the right way. So that would be an interesting one. Cornerback. They like their long corners. I could see Caleb Farley here. I think that would give them... you know what? Yeah, they wouldn't have to worry too much about Sean Murphy Bunting screwing it up. Yeah, let's do it. Caleb Farley, 32 overall. He makes it into the first round. And what time is it? It's only 12:04. Think about it. 12:04. I did a Midnight Monday mock draft. I can't believe I got to go first round in 45 minutes. That's nuts. All right. I'll talk a little bit about the top picks of that next round, and then at 40, I'll cut it off. 33 overall. Jacksonville Jaguars, right? They went and got Trayvon Moehrig. They have Trey Lance. This could be where I see Jalen Phillips this fall end. This seems kind of like a, what's it called? Trent Baalke move. We'll take the shot on the guy who has the concussion issue, and then maybe that guy never plays. At 34, by the way, I do find it weird that Jalen Phillips and Caleb Farley still getting mocked in the first round, and then all of a sudden Azeez Ojulari is not because of a knee issue. I'm kind of confused by that. Because it's not like we don't know the issue with Jalen Phillips and Caleb Farley, but again, those guys also have some pretty crazy talent. I'm just a little bit shocked by that. 34 overall. Jets are on the board. I'm going to have them go Wyatt Davis. 35 overall. I think the Falcons are a team that could trade up from the second round. I've had them trade up from the second round before. Why? Because I think defense is going to be a big deal for them. Here they get a guy. I think they could go Levi Wuzariki. They can go Azeez Ojulari. I think cornerback's still on the board for them. I think Asante Samuel could be on the board for them. I really do. I think Asante Samuel Jr. to the Falcons. This gives them... They want to play a lot more man coverage and blitz, and Asante Samuel can do that. He can play man... He actually is probably the most scheme versatile of all of them. He's just not tall, which is kind of a weird thing to say. It's like, oh, well, we can't draft him because he's not tall. 36 overall, the Miami Dolphins. What could they possibly be doing now after they went and got Joseph Osai in the first round? I think they could look at offensive line as well. Tackle, Dylan Radins is here. Liam Eichenberg is here. They could play him at guard or switch him out to tackle and kick Austin Jackson into guard. I kind of like that idea. Yeah, we'll do that. Eichenberg to the Miami Dolphins at 36. Now they're, adding to that offensive rotation of offensive linemen. 37 overall. The Eagles are on the board, on the clock. And previously I had them take Kwity Paye. I think they would possibly look wide receivers got to be a thing that they look at. They've never been too afraid of taking that falling value out of wide receiver. Terrence Marshall Jr. is still on the board. So I'm going to have the Eagles take Terrence Marshall Jr. Has that 4.3 wheel speed that he got at his pro day. My issue, again, like I said before, it's I think some teams are going to rate him a little lower because, again, his 2020 film is not as great as his 2019 film, and I think teams are going to question that in a lot of different ways. Why did you kind of look like you were taking plays off? Why weren't you that great in the slot? Why'd you opt out before the Alabama game? And then now he has the knee issue. Is he just a victim of circumstance between having Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase? Is it the reverse end? Is it just that they were all so good? So Terrence Marshall goes to 37 to the Eagles. It sounds like kind of what the Eagles would do. Because, again, they missed out on the LSU guy last year, so they're going to try and recorrect. 38 overall, the Bengals are on the board, right? I previously had them taking Jamar Chase, so we will follow that up with them looking at offensive line. Trey Smith's on the board. I feel like this is really early for Trey Smith. They are also a team that reaches for need like crazy. Dylan Radins is on the board. I think Dylan Radins would be a good pick for them, but that's just kind of my opinion. I know some teams and people have had Brady Christensen now ranked as like a borderline first-round pick. I don't see him being a first-round pick. I could see him being a second-round pick. I think Brady Christensen is a solid dude. He is older, though. I do think he's going to go on day 2. So I'm going to lean towards Christensen. They could also kick into guard. I don't know if I'd really want Dylan Radins kicking into guard. But he's got some sick athleticism, so if they're smart, maybe they do take him. So it's Dylan Radins or Trey Smith. I'm going to go Dylan Radins. 39 overall, the Panthers are on the board. Previously, I had them take Penny Sewell. Defensively, we look at what's still left on the board. They could take Azeez Ojulari. They have Burns on the roster. They have Yetur Gross-Matos. What they don't really have is like that pass rushing D tackle. It's not a great D tackle class, but it's one where personally my preference is that if you're taking a D tackle in this class, you either take Barmore or you wait till the 3rd round. But they could take Levi Muzariki. They could also take Baron Browning out of Ohio State. Very athletic linebacker. Jamin Davis as well is very athletic, but I think what Baron Browning brings is you can almost use him as a 3rd down edge rusher, so it really comes down to your flavor of linebacker, what you prefer. The Denver Broncos are on the board. I think they look at Azeez Ojulari or Jamin Davis. Who'd they take in the first? I had them take Micah Parsons, didn't I? I did, so they're not going to take... So what they might do is go Azeez Ojulari, get a guy as a rotational rusher for them. Carlos Basham's also still on the board. Peyton Turner's still on the board. I think both those guys are still potential options. 41 overall, the Detroit Lions. Let's see. Earlier, I had the Lions go Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah. I think they have to go wide receiver. I think the problem is I don't know how I feel. I don't know how teams really do feel about Kadarius Toney. He is going to be a developmental project, but I do see him working very well with that receiving core, given that they have outside guys right now with Rashad Perriman and Tyrell Williams, so they can get Kadarius Toney in the slot and kind of create a mismatch issue with him. Rondale Moore, again, another guy who I actually kind of like Rondale Moore a little bit better than Kadarius Toney. But I like Kadarius Toney's size a little bit more. If they use him correctly, that's good. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think I kind of like too. It's like one of those 2nd or 3rd round wide receivers. I'm gonna go Rondale Moore. And then at 42, we got the Giants. I'm gonna end with the 2nd Jags pick in the. Oh my god! And then there's another Detroit Lions pick. We'll go with that. We'll end with the Detroit Lions at 46. 42 overall, the Giants. They first round went Devontae Smith, so they're gonna look defense. Edge rusher, Carlos Basham, perfect. Yeah, I don't think our buddy Gettleman cares about age, right? He's not going to care that Carlos Basham's been able to vote for, like, I don't know, 7 years now. So I think he's going to be fine going Carlos Basham. Get an edge rusher who's strong, powerful. Weird because he doesn't use his strength. He's a little bit more of he likes to think he's a limber athlete. And he is. Like, that's the weird thing. He's a weirdly sized dude. And if you got him to use his full body to his full potential, I think he would be a very fun chess piece. So I actually kind of really do like Carlos Basham. If he was 2 years younger, he'd be like, I don't know. I think he'd probably be in the first round conversation a lot more. But that age thing, being the, very late stage, again, going to be 24 next year. I think that does affect how some teams will view him. Because, again, you're bullying. Now, granted, he had his best years before he hit 24. So I don't know. I think Carlos Basham is a fringe first-round pick already. If you just shaved a couple of years off of his birth certificate, I think he would probably be even higher. 43 overall, San Francisco 49ers. I think you're going to see a theme here, right? Offensive linemen and edge rushers are going off the board left and right. Wide receivers. I don't think they have to take a wide receiver here. I'm just thinking out loud. They could take a guard. They could take Trey Smith, Ben Cleveland. I don't think Ben Cleveland. Trey Smith's very athletic. They did get Alex Mack in free agency. So I think they're trying to fix that interior of the offensive line. If they got Trey Smith, that would be a good addition. He can actually be a good part of the outside zone scheme that they run there. 44 overall, the Dallas Cowboys are now on the board. What do we got? We got Jamin Davis, Creed Humphrey. Creed Humphrey's still on the board. I left him here up to this point. It's not like that's impossible that it couldn't happen. I do think it may be a couple of teams that maybe would have looked at him previous to this. I mean, again, I think the Bengals could. I think, they have Trey Hopkins kind of on IL. Here we go. Linebacker, safety, O-line, D-tackle. Yeah, I know, but there's a lot of issues. Typically, I still think Richie Grant's the perfect fit for them here. Pretending Richie Grant's not here, right? I'm thinking, where else could they go? I think Jamar Johnson's a little early for him, but this isn't a totally weird spot for him. Linebacker. Again, Jamin Davis is still here. It sounds like there's a little bit of concern about, are they going to go ahead and pick up Leighton Vander-Esch's fifth-year option? Jalen Samuels is not. Jalen Smith has not played very well for them this year. He played well, for 1 year. Looked like what they thought he was going to be coming out of college. They gave him an extension. Has not looked great during that extension period. I think part of that's also the D-tackle rotation there. Again, I've said before, I think D-tackle is more of a pick that you want to take in the third round here because, like I said, Alim McNeil's on the board. I think I would maybe look at him. Creed Humphrey. I would totally go center here and take Creed Humphrey if I was the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think they do it. Part of that being that they have McGovern on the roster. They drafted multiple. They drafted a dude in the fourth round last year. I still think Creed Humphrey wouldn't stop you from doing anything. I don't think that would stop you from drafting Creed Humphrey though. Landon Dickerson's still on the board, but he's got no ACLs at this point. I think defense is probably the bigger need. I think they can get by with what they had last year on offensive line, at least a little bit longer if they're all healthy. Jamin Davis or Richie Grant. Jamin Davis, Richie Grant. Zaven Collins. But Zaven Collins doesn't really fit the defense, I don't feel like. Jamin Davis with athleticism. Richie Grant. I'm going to go Jamin Davis. I haven't had him go linebacker ever in a draft. So here we go. Jamin Davis, 44 overall. Part of that reasoning is, again, Jamin Davis kind of showed up this year, came up with a very big athletic profile. Yes, Tyler Biotish was the guy that you guys drafted last year. And he kind of fell because of injury concerns. I think Humphrey would have also been a good pick for them. I don't think Biotish prevents you from taking him, but I also think, if you have two guys on the roster you feel okay about, and you have Martin coming back, and you have La'el Collins coming back, and you have Tyron Smith coming back, and you believe those guys are going to be okay, then I think maybe they address it in the third round, especially given that there was no centers taken off the board at this point. So I was seeing maybe safety or linebacker here. I think maybe they would go Richie Grant here, but again, I had him go Jamin Davis. 45 overall. At Jacksonville again. They could take a center, but they just I don't know. I don't think they would get rid of their center currently. Linder's been fine for them. That doesn't mean anything, to be honest, knowing how that team can operate, because we just don't know what Urban Meyer would do. Cornerback, Efetu Melifonwu, Kelvin Joseph. Kelvin Joseph to the Jags would be an interesting one, to be honest. He's got that. He's got very good feet. Good in between the ears. I also kind of like Tyson Campbell. I really don't know what kind of defense they're going to run. I'm going to lean towards Kelvin Joseph. I'm going to pretend that I have no clue what Urban Meyer's going to do, basically because you like the pick is your linebacking group needed some help ASAP. See, but the thing is with the linebacking group, I think part of that's also the defensive line not being able to stop the run either. And we've talked about this before. If you got a better one technique in there and somebody who could stop the run, like a Tyler Shelvin, I think that helps them way more. But I also think what Jamin Davis does is quite different. And again, you might be able to move past both the contracts of, both Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen. Also, Sean Lee retired. Probably one of my favorite linebackers in the NFL. Like when he played in previous years before, like he got super old, where he basically became a player's coach. He was really good, and that defense played better when he was on the field. In fact, you could see statistical differences between the Dallas Cowboys with Sean Lee and without Sean Lee, like during the 2014 to 2017 years, or even earlier than that. You're right. They do need linebacker. I still think safety's the bigger need, though, for them, to be honest. But there's also safeties they can get later on. Like I said, there's still Jamar Johnson on the board, Andre Sisco's still on the board, Richie Grant's still on the board. So if you have three guys on the board at that position, if you're seeing them circle off the board, you could trade up for them. Last one I'm going to do for the night, 46, the Detroit Lions. How would they handle anything? They have Ragnow, and I think they like Ragnow. I'm always curious if they would kick Ragnow to guard. Yeah, Sean Lee was a beast but couldn't stay healthy. Yeah, it sucks. The concussions sometimes. He had so many different issues. I know he had concussions a couple of times. I think he had some, was it back, or he was just so injured. And I was so bad because he really was a great player. He was a great defensive general on the field. Down to the Lions. Lions have taken Rondale Moore, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. This is the pick they got for trading down. Rondale Moore. Is there a defensive player left that I really like for them? Edge rushers, Ronnie Perkins, Peyton Turner would be an interesting one. I could see them going Joe Tryon. He tested very athletically. I don't have Joe Tryon as a second rounder. I'm more of a top of the third guy for him. Peyton Turner has that is 270, has played at 290, could play like 4-3 D end, very versatile dude. Like I said, good hand usage and good movement skills, to be honest. His real problem is core strength. It's very weird for a guy who is that big and strong. He really doesn't have a lot of good core strength to him. So I think they would like him. They'd pair him up with what's the Romeo Okwara. They have both the Okwara brothers, but I don't think they prevent you from drafting Peyton Turner. Now you get a good defensive line rotation. You know what? I kind of want to just hit 50 at this point, right? Because Miami's right there. All right, 47 overall. The Chargers are on the board. Previously, what I do with the Chargers, I had them take Rashawn Slater. They too are gonna jump on this edge rusher train. They're gonna take Joe Tryon to pair with Joey Bosa, and now they are gonna keep on building up that edge rotation. Because again, they lost somebody. They lost Melvin Ingram. They got to replace him. I think Joe Tryon might be a good attempt at doing that. 48 overall. The Raiders. That's why this is the area where it's all going to be interesting anyway. The Raiders could go Creed Humphrey. Oh yeah, especially since I had the Raiders go corner early on. I think that's definitely on the board. Offense, they could also get tackle. Jalen Mayfield, Spencer Brown, Walker Little. Brady Christensen. Brady Christensen's the perfect. You know what? Yes, Brady Christensen to the Raiders in the second round just sounds like a Gruden move. They're going to Gruden up the draft by going ahead and taking a guy who's like 25 years old. But I think that's actually a smart move, partially because he is at least technically sound. They're going to switch him over to the right side, and yeah, now they have at least a little bit of better offensive line depth. I maybe would have went offensive. I would have maybe went center and went for Creed Humphrey, but I feel like their center situation, as bad as I would feel about it, they at least have Nick Martin. And again, you have 3 centers still left on your board. They don't have to go ahead and take the top one. 49, Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. Previously, I've had them take Greg Newsome. Again, you're going to see a lot of offensive linemen go in this range of the draft. I could see them taking Walker Little. I think guard is an option too, but I just don't. Well, I don't think I want to take Ben Cleveland because he wouldn't be. I don't think Kyler Murray can see over Ben Cleveland. And we're kind of running out. Aaron Banks would be an interesting one. I think this is a little high for Aaron Banks though. Walker Little, Stone Forsythe, wide receiver. Oh, wide receiver still a need. Man, if they took Kadarius Toney after getting Andy Isabella and him not working out, I just don't think that's a smart move. This is going to be a shocker for some, I think, but Amon-Ra St. Brown. You get a guy who's closer to the 6 feet marker at wide receiver. Could be a slot receiver for you. Now you have DeAndre Hopkins. You know, he's not a full 6 feet, but he's big enough where and he plays big. He's got good arm. You know, he's good at high pointing the ball. I think this is a little bit better for Kyler Murray, especially if you're going to play that 4 wide system that they kind of like to ride there down in Arizona. So Amon-Ra St. Brown to the Arizona Cardinals. You could also go Diami Brown. I think I actually personally have Diami Brown higher, but I kind of again, I think what Amon-Ra St. Brown would give them with DeAndre Hopkins, with Kyler Murray's height, I think that fits them better. And now we're back with the Miami Dolphins because they have 30,000 top 90 picks. So where did we have them go before, right? Liam Eichenberg, Joseph Osai, Jalen Waddle. You know what's funny? I'm shocked that he fell this far, but we'll have him go Creed Humphrey, 50 overall. This is probably where if you swap the Eichenberg and Creed Humphrey picks, this is probably how it would actually go. And that's it. I'm doing the top 50 here for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow. This is just the final Midnight Monday mock draft, right? So, listen, thanks again, Jaylan, for coming on and chatting with me and posting in the comments section. I love looking at the board and seeing your comments there. Again, I'm going to be doing a live stream the night of the draft and day 2 of the draft. But night 1 of the draft, I'm going to be up in Nanuet, New York, doing a live stream, live show. And we will have audience participation, and we will have a panel of local stand-up comedians, and I'll be co-hosted with Dr. D. de Blasio. He is not a real doctor. He's just a doctor of the funny to make you laugh, to make you feel good. And, yeah, thanks again for coming on. Thanks again for watching. Tomorrow I'll finish this up. I'll do the second half of round 2, and then we'll get to round 3, and then Wednesday I'm gonna do another live stream. I will do another live stream Wednesday. I'm also gonna have other videos that come out, and I'll be doing my final mock draft Wednesday night on here, live streamed. And until then, take care, ta-ta. See you later, Jaylan. See you then. I can't wait for Thursday either. It's going to be a blast. Have a good one, my friend.